Thank you very much, Professor Fabian Ajogu, SAN. I'll leave here today and go straight to a lawyer to get him to prepare my will. Even though I don't intend to die until about 150 years from now. Just in case you don't know, my name is Babajide, and where I come from, it means I was and I am. So I'm a cousin to Jesus Christ. Alright, we'll break for tea in a few minutes, but I know that a lot of us have questions to ask. So we would give the opportunity for a few questions from each of the speakers that have spoken, Professor Otomi, Professor Alipo, Dr. Ogu, and Professor Ajogu. So questions, please. I see the man from the Certified Institute of Family Business. The man seated right behind Professor Ajogu. Please take the mic to him. Please tell us your name and where you're from for the benefit of those who just arrived.
My name is Gabriel. I'm from Lagos State. Thank you to the first two speakers. I think very commendable work done. One of the questions I came with have already been answered, but I was hoping for a bit more clarification, and that was around the subject of coming to a common definition of what a family business is. Listening to the professor, there was some light shared, but I was hoping that we could get a bit more insight. At the maturity stage of a family enterprise, what do you define as a family business? For instance, when they go public. In Europe, it's 25% of the shares are still held in the family, then it's family control. Do we have any such restrictions in Nigeria? Secondly, on corporate governance, are there any frameworks you recommend? I know sometimes the Institute of Directors does recommend codes for non-publicly listed companies. I've not come across any for Nigeria, but is there a recommendation? And then a contribution, if you don't mind, I'll sit down now. To the point from Dr. Alipo's presentation, I think there's a distinction that can be learned if we shifted the focus from defining them as family-owned businesses to enterprising families, because that way, the business that created the wealth in the founding generation does not need to be the business that the succeeding generation flowed into. And if we look at family businesses that way, people like the Binedions and Okada, for instance, Okada Air, you could say there was a liquidity event and Okada Air disappeared, but then the Binedion University came forth. So there can be transition of wealth from generation to generation, but not necessarily in the form that the founding entrepreneur started with.
Thank you. Next question. Very last row, right opposite me. Right opposite me.
Thank you very much. One of the challenges, I guess most of us here are pioneers of businesses, and some of us are, maybe second generation, young executives trying to, in the early stages of the transition. And some of us we know some of these concepts, these theories, these corporate governance, these best practices. We've heard, what is the best approach to communicate that with your founders, your pioneers?
Don't kill your father.
Without sounding like you want to kill them in the future. No, but what's the best way to kind of communicate it? Because there's going to be some clashes, there's going to be some different. They've come 40 years without having some of these structures in place. Getting it, and you don't want to sound too theoretical. What's the best approach to kind of have that transition? That's one of the things I'm hoping to learn.
How to communicate transitions. I think these are the two questions that we have. Okay, one. Again? We're taking all the questions now, so just two more. Okay, we've had 2 males and 2 females. Let's round up with that.
Sorry, I'm a bit late. Prof, nice to meet you again. Apart from Marcus guy. And my question is, why Prof was talking, something struck me. I come from a family that the founder of a big business was a multi-billionaire. But while the man passed on, the issue of why should a certain person be made to administer the rest of the will came up. And then in his will, the man graciously said his fifth generation, which I am the third, would still enjoy that wealth abundantly, but it stopped at the fourth generation. So my question here is, in such instances that the will does not hold any effect for them, what can the law do? Is there anything apart from he said it, but okay, we're alive, we're not going to do it? Is there anything, any idea that can come up sometime in the future to safeguard such businesses from going on? Because if that business was on, maybe subsequent generations will still be running it and enjoying it. But where some people, out of greed and jealousy, say it's not going to happen, do you think that something can happen to it? Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you to all the speakers. It was really amazing. My name is Chinaye, Business Development Manager with Exploded. Okay, two questions from two different angles. Firstly, an experience with a client, and secondly, from my family. I was privileged to work with a company where the chairman is the founder and then the three managing directors are the children. And one of the subsistent brands in that business developed by the chairman, one of the managing directors, he's very opposed to it. So he's not sharing the same vision as the founder's vision for that particular brand. Now, based on my analysis, I thought it was a big conflict. And I wasn't sure how they were going to mitigate it. It's not my business, but I just wanted to know how such conflicts can be shared or, I don't know, resolved. Now to my family. I come from a very interesting family. My mom is a lawyer and I have three of us are lawyers as well. And we have very diverse ideas when it comes to certain things. And from my conversation with my siblings, no one actually is interested in following the footsteps of, let me say, the company my dad started. And he's hoping that would happen. And my question goes as thus. How do you then involve your family when it comes to managing a family businesses in the future if you don't share common interest? I mean, part of the reason why the business succeeds and why it grows is because of interest. If the interest is absent, what then happens?